Good morning and welcome to Grandpa's Snippets. We're doing it a little different, doing it by the back room fireplace. Some of you grandchildren will probably remember laying out here on the carpet and roasting marshmallows. Not in this fireplace. We used to have a Ben Franklin stove and the stone went out further and it opened up and real fire and wood in it and roast marshmallows. We enjoyed doing that. And but then Grandma got to the place that her allergies started kicking in, and so the fumes and the kind of the particles off of the wood got into the air and bothered her. So had to take that out and put the electric fireplace in, which we really enjoyed and she really enjoyed. I put on a shirt today with some green and some red in it because I want to talk a little bit about Christmas. And so I got the deer out, and this deer down here is actually Grandma's mother's, your great-grandmother's, that she had and bought years ago, and we so loved it that when they passed, we got that little deer. So reminds me that Christmas is only 7 weeks away, and I hear about people doing Christmas shopping already and things, and I'm thinking about making out my Christmas card list, so we're getting ready. I remember when I was in the second grade, we got what we called a wish book. I think it was a Montgomery Ward catalog, just a small one, that listed toys. Not a lot of toys like they have nowadays, but there was a variety. I know I set on a doctor set. I really wanted to see that doctor set, and sure enough, I got it. It had a little bag with two handles, just like the old country doctor, and it kind of opened up. I think it snapped, and inside was a stethoscope and different instruments. But I liked the armband. They had an armband with a red cross on it. Of course, it was World War II, and it kind of represented the Red Cross. And then especially the bottles of pills. They were little candy red pills. And I would go around dispensing medicine to different people. We didn't have a lot of toys growing up, but we didn't do too bad, but we didn't have a lot. So we made some of our own, and I thought I would show you. This says holiday greetings on it, so we're going to pull out of this holiday box. Now these are not things that I have when I was a kid. I made them this summer of what I had. One is a rubber band gun. Take an old inner tube and fasten it over a piece of wood, and this nail is the trigger, but we push in with the handle to get it to fire. And it was a rubber band gun, and that went pretty far there. That did pretty good. Used to love to make my boats, which the boats was paddle boats. And you would wind up the paddle, which was on a rubber band, and then we'd put it in a puddle, and it would go a little distance, or if it was in a creek, we'd put a little string on it and guide it. So we made our own little boats, pretty much similar to that. I remember one thing that we had, and this is called a button on a string. And for the life of me, I cannot get it to work. But it's like you take a button or you take a plastic and put two holes in it, and then you spin it up or wind it up, and then you pull. And what it's supposed to do is supposed to go around this way, and then it goes in, and you pull, it goes around the other way. I've lost my touch in making them, but I do know if you go on the internet and you go to button on a string, it will give you a video of how to make it, and so you might try one of these old toys we had. One thing we had was we kind of made what we call a telephone line. Two tin cans, and actually the one tin can of the string had a nail on the bottom, so when it wouldn't go through the hole. And if you went about 30 feet and you pulled it tight, and one guy would talk in here, the other guy could hear, and it was kind of like a telephone line. Well, nowadays you kids have all kinds of cell phones and go around the world, you know, but that's one thing we did. I remember another thing we did that we used to take and make scooters, and we would get a board, and on the bottom of the board, we would take and back then they had roller skates that were metal and they kind of slid together and you could adjust them, you could take them apart. So we would nail the first part on the front and the back part on the rear, but you had to get them straight or you'd be constantly going different directions. And we would nail those on there on the front. Now this I just pulled out of the shed. This should have been squared off. But you would nail on the front, then another piece, and you'd have your wheels underneath and this, and then across the top of here, you'd make a handle, and you would hold on, and you had a scooter, and it wouldn't take that long to make, and it did pretty good. One of the things that we used to do, we used to play cowboys and Indians. Now, today, to play cowboys and Indians, they would look at you and say you're racist because you're playing Indians and they're the bad people and so forth. But we used to go and we would get a piece of wood like this or a bough off of a tree, and we would take and make our own arrow, and we would play cowboys and Indians, and we played that by the hour. It was a lot of fun. We enjoyed it. I saw in the paper just not long ago this picture here out on Johnson Farm of a girl walking on stilts. I remember us making our stilts, get 2 poles, and then up so far you'd nail on a block and another block, and then maybe we would make it about that far off the ground, and then we would stand on that. Made us look, we felt pretty tall, pretty big, and then you would grab those and you would walk. Couldn't walk many steps, it just got off balance. But going back real quickly to the telephones, probably in the 6th grade, my mom got us a set of phones for the house, play phones. They were green boxes about like this. You would speak into a mouthpiece, and then there was a hook on the side that held an earpiece, and we wired one phone from the kitchen downstairs, ran wires to the bedroom upstairs, and she would call us on the morning and tell us time to get up. And as kids, because kids played with it quite a bit about having fun and talking on it and doing all that. One thing I remember, and I don't know kids have them anymore or not, is trains. You have metal tracks, oval tracks. Sometimes you can make them go different directions. And you put on a choo-choo train with about 4 cars, and it'd be a box car. You'd load it with things, and coal car. You'd load it with things, and it would go around and around, and it was just a lot of fun. Pretty soon it would stop. Well, you knew you had a problem. Somewhere one of the connections had worked loose, and you would start making sure that all the connections were correct, and then you'd flip the switch, and sure enough, off it went again. It got power, and it was doing fine. It had become disconnected. There wasn't any power to it. Reminds me of a backwoodsy guy, really backwoodsy guy. Went into an apartment building, or into a home, and saw this beautiful chandelier putting out so much beautiful light. Man, boy, I'd like to have one of those back in my cabinet, or cabin, back in my cabin. So he goes downtown and he searches around and he gets a chandelier just like that. He loves it, really loves it. Takes it, goes back to his cabin, fastens it up on the ceiling. Then he stands off to the side and he waits for it to light up. And he scratches his head and he goes to a different angle of the room and he looks at it, it don't light up into a different angle. And he got so disgusted. And he went back to the store and complained a lot about the fact the thing didn't work. And so the fellow said, well, let me ask you. He went through the steps and said, well, did you hook it to power? It had no power. He did not hook it to power. He needed a source of strength, power. So that reminds me of a verse of scripture which is in John 15, chapter 15, verses 15 or 5 through 6. John 15, 5 through 6 out of the NIV, which says, get over to the right, here it is, okay. He says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not remain in me, he is like a branch that is thrown away and withereth. Such branches are picked up and thrown into the fire and burned. So in life, the main purpose here is then to be productive, to be fruitful, to have a life that's productive. Be connected to Christ, your source of power, your source of strength. And that way then you can have Christmas all year round. He can be in your heart, give you joy, and give you peace. And we find that I want to finish with the story of a couple. This couple loved each other very much. You might have heard this story. But he had a watch, my little watch pocket here. He had a watch that he appreciated and loved very much. And he just was proud of it. This one here, believe it or not, I got after 40 years of service at work. And it's got three little diamonds there. Pretty nice little watch. I wore it about 3 times on a suit that had a vest where the chain goes like this. But anyway, he had a gold watch, but he had no fob, which means probably the short of a ribbon or a chain, there is an ornament. And he did not have an ornament for the chain. So, and his wife had long, beautiful black hair and beautiful hair, but she had no brush for it. So it came Christmas morning, and he opened up his package, and there was a fob for the end of the chain on his watch. But he had sold his watch to buy her a beautiful brush for her long black hair. It's a story of love. And so there's one greater love than that. That's the love of Christ, that he would send his son to die on the cross. And that's exactly what Christmas is about. It's about the greatest gift that we've ever received. And we might have had a lot of things in life, but the greatest gift you'll ever have is Jesus Christ. So, okay, we'll see you in the next video. And thank you very much for listening today.